The Porsche Macan T is powered by an almighty 2-liter 4-cylinder engine, making a whopping 261 horsepower and 295 pound-feet of torque. And right now, we're about to listen to that baby purr. Watch this. Oh yeah. And today's video was sponsored by Brilliant.org, which is one of the best ways to learn math, data science, and computer science interactively online. We will get into that a bit more later, but for now, just know that Brilliant, I love you, dog. Behind me is the cheapest Porsche model you can buy from them, and yet it's still better than the vast majority of vehicles in its class. The Porsche Macan is kind of that car that a lot of people tend to overlook, as it's a pretty common SUV to come across, but I've come to learn that it's for a reason. It's not the fastest SUV you can buy by a mile, it's not the flashiest SUV you can buy, but it's still probably the best daily driver crossover overall. And here's why. Now, there's a handful of different Macan models you can buy now, but this Macan T variant is a one-of-a-kind model in the sense that you couldn't configure any other Macan to be exactly like the Macan T in terms of the aesthetics and the underpinnings. The T stands for touring, by the way. Now, what you get with this Macan T package is mostly aesthetics based, starting with the mirrors. These are painted in an agate gray or agate gray. I'm not exactly sure how you pronounce the word, but then you get this black side badge on the side with the Macan T logo. You have the door sill guards painted in black brushed aluminum. The rear tailpipes are painted in black. And then you get these super sick dark titanium 20-inch wheels. And this car is super clean. I've kind of always been a fan of the way the Macan looks, but this Macan T variant in particular is a near perfect blend of daily driver with sporty flair. The unibeam taillights look super sick at night, and all the black and dark gray accents match really well with this white color. I'm a fan. The interior, though, that's where you really start to get a sense of why this car is as beloved as it is. You first get these black seats with silver stitching, and you can kind of see how the color scheme is quite consistent even throughout the entire interior. But I'll talk about the comfort of these seats a little bit later. But what I love about the interior is that everything in here just feels super premium. The window switches, the steering wheel, the paddle shifters, and especially the center console. Everything you touch in here feels like it was designed for ASMR videos. Like, just listen to this. Yeah, I think you get the point. And let's just appreciate Porsche for a second for having a brand new car that still has a nice solid blend of touchscreen and physical controls. I've said it many times before that sometimes everything being all touchscreen is a bit too much, and I think Porsche gets it. As long as your infotainment is nice to use, I don't think people care about it not being a touchscreen. And doing things this way makes it a lot easier for first-time users. I feel like I could have my 80-year-old grandmother come into this car, start fiddling around with things, and not have any issue as to how to use the car, generally speaking. I will say this car does not have a very large cabin. This is a crossover SUV that's very heavy on the crossover part. It's got 5 seats, but if you have 5 large adult males taking up all the seats, it's definitely going to feel very cramped in here. But if you're using this car primarily for the front driver's seat and front passenger seat with the occasional rear passenger, I don't think the sizing should be a problem for anyone. You've got a 10-speaker Bose sound system in here that sounds pretty good. It's not the absolute best-in-class sound system for a vehicle within the $60,000 to $80,000 price range, but I think it's incredibly well balanced, and I really have no complaints with how well it performs, especially at higher volumes. There's very little distortion when you really want to crank it up. And I think any non-audiophile should be very happy with it. One thing I don't like about the interior is certain aspects of the infotainment, primarily Apple CarPlay. So you have wireless Apple CarPlay, which is great. That's a good thing to have and should be a standard for a car like this, but it seemingly can't ever be full screen. You always have these extra media controls on the side. Maybe I just haven't figured out how to get rid of that, but that is something that annoys me because it feels like a miniature version of Apple CarPlay, and it feels like I should be able to maximize that and get the entire screen full of Apple CarPlay, especially since it doesn't have a weird aspect ratio display or anything like that. It's a pretty standard rectangular screen. So you would think that Apple CarPlay would be full screen, or at least taking up most of the screen, but it's more like 60 to 70% of the screen, which is kind of annoying. Something else that I think is missing is just a nice place to store your phone, because there really isn't in this car. You have this little divot right below the center console area where you can store keys very nicely, right in between the cup holder and the center console area. but I kind of just leave my phone in there sideways, which is kind of awkward. All in all, a wireless charging pad would be nice, but I understand that you're not working with a crazy amount of space to begin with in this car, so there might have to be some compromises to make that happen. But that's pretty much it for the infotainment, so let's get driving. Now, you may think you're smart because you understand all these terms that I use, like forced induction and internal combustion, etc. But you could be more than smart. You could be brilliant. Brilliant.org is the best way to learn the maths and the computer sciences and engineerings interactively. Brilliant has a beautifully designed website with thousands of lessons that can teach you the basics of math, AI, data science, neural networks, and much more. And not just the basics, you can do the more advanced stuff too when you get to that level. I love Brilliant.org because I'm not brilliant, but thanks to Brilliant, I can take fun engineering lessons that allows me to learn more about the stuff I try to tell you about. And with my busy schedule, Brilliant fits perfectly into my day, like any man and a Porsche 911. It's one of the most effective and personable ways to learn. Trust me, dog. The Porsche GT3 having a 6-cylinder engine isn't what makes the car cool. It's about how that flat 6 engine makes you feel, just like the knowledge. It ain't about getting the knowledge, it's about how having the knowledge makes you feel. Knowledge. You want to achieve your goals, you want to be the best student you can be, you want to have the biggest of brains, well, get Brilliant. You can try it for free for a full 30 days using my special link in the description below, or just visit brilliant.org/carswithmiles. And the first 200 people to sign up using that link will get 20% off Brilliant's annual premium subscription. Do it now. Don't be like me and not be brilliant, even though I'm trying to get brilliant through brilliant.org. Go to brilliant.org right now. Now, back to the video. The Porsche Macan T is powered by an almighty 2-liter 4-cylinder engine, making a whopping 261 horsepower and 295 pound-feet of torque. And right now, we're about to listen to that baby purr. Watch this. Oh yeah. Yeah, no, it's not very fast at all, but that's not really what this car is about. Are there much faster crossovers out there for the money? Absolutely, and especially if you buy something used. But this car definitely has enough horsies to move confidently on the road. And for anyone not concerned about super engaging high-speed driving, I feel like this amount of power is plenty. 0 to 60 is done in about 5.8 seconds, which I feel is pretty respectable for how much power the car has. You definitely got to put your foot in it sometimes, but overall it's definitely not a slow car by any means, especially when it's not really designed to be a high-speed performance car. Porsche's PDK is the best automatic in the game, and if any Porsche is proof of that, it's the Macan, because it's the least powerful, least performance-y car you can buy from Porsche, yet it's still super fun to engage with these paddle shifters and go up and down in the gearbox. You get nice little blips on the upshift that are super satisfying, and the speed and responsiveness of the shifts themselves makes this relatively pedestrian crossover SUV pretty fun to engage with when you pop it into manual mode. The steering is also quite good. It feels pretty linear and direct, but also not too video gamey and overly synthetic. It feels like you're very much connected to the road. Granted, this isn't as good as what you would find in like a 911 GT product or something like that, but I am very much a fan of the steering in this car. It still feels good for a driving enthusiast, but also very approachable for someone who isn't into all the spirited driving and just wants a normal, approachable car. But what honestly blows my mind as far as the way this car drives is with the suspension. So a part of this Macan T package is the Porsche Active Suspension Management System, and that makes the car sit a tad bit lower than you would find on a very base model Macan. You're also getting stiffer sway bars and 20-inch wheels all around with a 295 section in the rear as far as the width. So you're getting pretty wide rear tires, and I've never been in a crossover with sub 300 horsepower with a rear tire width like that. That's like what you find in a lot of high-end sports cars and supercars. Needless to say, this car handles like nobody's business. It takes hard corners and bends with a lot of confidence, and the body roll is actually very minimal. It's honestly like a baby 911 when it comes to its handling capabilities for the street. But that T in Macan T isn't for track, it's for touring. So how well does it do at all the regular stuff? It's actually kind of crazy how well the car handles spirited driving and fun driving with a lot of confidence, yet it's still very good at just doing the daily driving, commuting, and cruising on crappy city roads, which I've done a lot of in this car. The suspension is just firm enough to be able to drive it with confidence on like hard corners and bends at decently high speeds, but it's still plenty soft enough to be able to cruise and glide along the road without getting beat up every day. It truly is the best of both worlds in terms of its ability to do both fun driving and normal driving very well while still not really compromising in any areas when it comes to the suspension for street use. Now, if you want to take this on a track, that's a different story, but for the street, it's nearly a perfectly balanced setup. I'm not the greatest fan of these seats. I feel like they're just a tad bit too stiff for my liking, but as far as the suspension itself, I feel like I could definitely do long distance road trips in this car without feeling very fatigued or tired from just eating up all these hard bumps on the road. In short, the cheapest Porsche you can buy is still very much a testament to how good these cars are. Also, I'm parking right now, and the turning radius is also something I'm a big fan of. I feel like it's so good to get out of like tight parking spots or fit into tight parking spots. I'm a big fan of the turning radius in this car. It's definitely surprised me as well. That beeping is the parking sensor. I never really got to experience a Porsche Macan before this week, and before driving one, I thought it was just a run-of-the-mill Volkswagen crossover with a Porsche skin on it. But after driving one and really getting to learn this car, I truly do get it now. This is honestly the perfect SUV to get for your girlfriend or your mom or someone in your life who doesn't care about all the performance stuff. And then when they're not driving it, you can get in and tear up some back roads, carve some corners, stuff like that. And I think that's what I'm gonna do now. But if you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to future content like this. Merch, if you want to get some, linked in the description down below. This is the Reliable t-shirt. We also have a few more designs available. And that's about it. I'm gonna talk to you guys in the next one.